In this clip, we're going to continue to learn about the different tangent types inside of Maya. Alright, so we're just going to pick up right where we left off. In the previous clip, we looked at the autotangent type and the spline tangent. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the others. So we're going to go up here to Windows, Animation Editor, and let's bring up the Graph Editor again. And we'll make sure that we have the Translate Z channel selected so that it's isolated. We can press F to make sure that we're framed in nicely on that curve. And let's highlight the keyframe on frame 25. So if you remember, we have it set to the spline tangent type. Let's take a look at the clamped tangent. So let's go ahead and select that. You can see that it hasn't really changed because the clamped tangent is going to try to, again, keep a nice smooth curve happening between these keyframes here, just like we had with the auto tangent and the spline tangent. However, if we drag this down, it's going to, as soon as we get to the same value of two keyframes, it's going to automatically flatten out that handle to create a perfectly straight curve there so that we have no interpolation happening. So similarly to the auto tangent, this tangent, the clamp tangent, is going to automatically adjust the tangent handle as soon as we have two keyframes at the same value. So there isn't going to be an overshoot. However, you'll notice that the clamp tangent type doesn't have that sort of smooth rotation that happens with the auto tangent. You can see that it's only going to rotate that tangent handle as soon as we get to a value of 0, or excuse me, the same value that is on frame 50 here, which is in this case around -86. So as soon as we get to that value, then it's going to rotate, but only then. But you can see that it's not rotating at all until it gets to that same value. So you can see it's very similar to the auto tangent, but if we change this to auto real quick, you can see sort of the change that this has. It has a nice sort of just gradual rotation as it gets to that value there. All right, let's take a look at the linear tangent. Let's go ahead and select that on this keyframe. And basically what this is going to do is create as linear an interpolation as possible, which means it doesn't want to create a type of actual roundness to the curve itself. It doesn't want to have any type of overshoot that we saw in the auto tangent. It doesn't want to have any type of spacing adjustment. It wants the spacing basically of our animation to be as linear and as the same as possible between each frame. Now you can actually see sort of the change that this has on our animation if we actually change all of our keyframes to this linear tangent type. So let's go ahead and select that. You can see what we're getting is basically a completely sort of flat curve. We don't have that nice roundness to our curve. We have this very straight line happening between these keyframes. And what this gives us is a very sort of robotic type of animation. You can see that the spacing and the movement of this spaceship is pretty much the same all the way through. We play it, and you can see exactly what's happening here. It's sort of just moving at a nice, constant, even speed. However, this tangent type could actually be really helpful when you're animating something like a spaceship like this, where the spaceship probably will need to move at pretty much the same speed throughout the animation, so you don't want to have the spaceship sort of just slowly move into the motion itself. So having a linear tangent type like this will be really helpful in making sure that you have a nice linear movement in a vehicle like this. Let's go ahead and real quick select all of these. And let's go ahead and just change them back to something like the auto tangent. And again, you can see how different the auto tangent is to that linear tangent. We now have a really nice rounded, smooth curve. And if we play the animation, you can see sort of the change that this actually has on our animation. You can see because the curve is sort of round up at the top, our spaceship is slowly going to take off. It's going to move faster as that curve straightens out, and then slow down as that curve sort of widens down there at the bottom. So you can get a nice good look at sort of the change that that has. Let's go ahead and pause that and go back to frame 1. Let's select this keyframe again. And let's choose the flat tangent type. And what this is going to do is basically maintain a completely flat tangent handle. So what this gives us is that it's not trying to create a nice smooth curve for us. You can see that the keyframe in the middle now has a flat tangent. The keyframes that have auto on are flat as well. So what it's doing is it's basically just trying to keep a flat tangent handle as it can, because it doesn't want to automatically add any type of that rotation to your tangent handle. It doesn't want to do that. It wants you to actually go in there and adjust these tangent handles as needed to get the look of the curve that you want. So in this case, if you have it set to a flat tangent like this and you're like, well, I actually want this to be a nice rounded smooth curve. So to do that, you would actually need to go in here and alter this tangent handle by clicking it and rotating it to where you want. So it's always going to be a flat handle like that when you have this turned on. So again, if we take a look at the auto tangent type, you can see Maya's automatically going to rotate it for us because it's always going to try to create a smooth curve for us. Let's go ahead and select back to flat there, so you can kind of see the change that this actually has on the curve itself. Now let's take a look at the stepped tangent type. Let's go ahead and select that. So what this is going to do is, with it turned on, this keyframe on frame 25 set to stepped, it's going to basically get rid of any interpolation happening between 25 and 50. So the keyframe after that is not going to have any interpolation. And what this gives us is basically just a complete pop. So from frame 25, nothing's happening, and then as soon as it gets to that change in value on frame 50, then it's going to pop into that position. So you may be wondering, when would be a good time to even use a step tangent like this if it's not interpolating the animation? It's simply just popping between keyframe to keyframe once it actually gets to that frame. Well, this step tangent type is extremely helpful when you're trying to block in an animation. So if you're working on maybe a character shot or a character animation where you really just want to focus on just the posing of the character to begin with, you don't want to worry about how the computer is interpolating between those keyframes, you just want to focus on the posing, you can change your tangent type to stepped, and that will get rid of any type of interpolation that the computer tries to do and just display the keyframes themselves and the change in value. So you can see it pops as soon as it gets to 50, then it pops there. Let's go ahead and change this back to something like auto. And then you can see that now we're having nice, smooth interpolation there. All right, and let's go ahead and change this now to the plateau tangent. And this is very similar to what you would see with something like the clamped. But you can see that what it's going to do is it's automatically going to rotate it for us, just like we saw with the clamped tangent type as well as the auto tangent. So as soon as we get sort of down here, it's going to rotate it for us, but you'll notice it rotates before we even get to the same value of the next keyframe. So you could see that our keyframe is quite a bit higher than this keyframe down here, but it's automatically going to flatten out that tangent handle for us, which could be something you want, but it also could be sort of a hindrance to your actual animation, because if we just sort of drag it up to here, it's automatically going to flatten out, and this is going to give us a strange look to our animation. And then it'll kind of shoot off. You can see that it slowly moves, and then it'll kind of shoot across the screen. And we can drag that down. So you can see how it's automatically adjusted, but it's kind of doing it, it's not adjusting at exactly the same value. It's kind of doing it prematurely there. And we might drag that back down, and then we'll change this back to an auto tangent. So that's kind of a quick overview of the different tangent types inside of Maya. Oops, looks like I accidentally snapped that in there. Let's just drag that out. All right, so we looked at the different tangent types, and really when you're animating in Maya, you're probably going to be using the auto tangent, which is the default tangent type in Maya. Whenever you create an animation, it's automatically going to assign an auto tangent to it. Or something like the step tangent when you're blocking in an animation. Those are really the two tangent handle types that really come in handy most of the time for your animations. So now that we've learned about the different tangent types, in the next clip, we're going to take a sort of more of an advanced look at how we can adjust the tangent handles themselves to really completely alter the look and feel of our animation. So we're going to take a look at that in the next clip.